president of the NAACP, and two big announcements to make this morning. We want to welcome our guests, both Derek and Tamika. Derek Johnson, the newly elected president of the NAACP. Tamika Mallory, co-chair of the Women's March. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, Mark. How you doing?
Fine. Good morning. First of all, Derek, congratulations are in order. You are now the duly elected president of the NAACP. Is that correct?
That is correct, and thank you for your support. The board on Saturday chose me as the 19th president of the association. It is something that I am greatly appreciative of and understand the magnitude of this moment. So working with you and Tamika and many others, we must make sure that democracy works for our community and that equal protection of the law is afforded to all of the folks in this country, but especially African Americans and individuals of African descent.
Yes, sir. Well, congratulations to you. In that vein, I know we have been covering Tamika's ordeal on American Airlines. Tamika, co-chair of the Women's March, why don't you give us the latest update? Have you heard from American Airlines?
Yes, actually I have. But first of all, I just want to start off by saying congratulations to Derek, who I consider just in a short period of time that he and I have been spending time together to be a great brother. And I'm very excited about what will happen with the NAACP and with our communities with him at the helm of this organization. You know, this brother we know has his finger on the pulse of the streets as well as the suites. Yeah. And I'm just very, very excited and also grateful that Derek took this responsibility because, as he said, it certainly is a big one. And we're looking for great things to come out of the association as a result of his leadership. So congratulations, Derek, and thank you so much. We're excited. We're getting ready to work you to death. So,
Thank you.
So, yes, I have heard from American Airlines, Mark Thompson, and they asked for a meeting, of which I have agreed to this meeting, but certainly the meeting will have to be with other folks in the civil rights community who have been doing the work of corporate responsibility for a long time. I've asked Derek and the NAACP for their partnership in terms of making sure that we are giving the appropriate policy recommendations to American Airlines, and we will be working to do that over the coming weeks.
So, Derek, you have a very important announcement to make today then.
But, we have begun to look at the industry, but particularly American Airlines, and where the industry has had problems with individuals being oversold and people being bumped because the seats are oversold. American Airlines has had a particular problem and pattern of African Americans being removed from the plane. It is not based on tickets being oversold, or another scenario where a woman was traveling with a companion and she purchased first class seats. Her companion purchased first class seats. She being white, she being black, him being white, right. And she was denied her seat and placed in coach, but he stayed in his seat. We want to understand from American Airlines what's behind this pattern. We all recall Dr. Barber being removed from the plane when someone else incited negative comments towards him, and he simply turned around and looked, and he was removed from the plane. And so there's a pattern that we're concerned about. And one of the things we'll be issuing later today is a travel advisory on American Airlines, that if this pattern is based on race and they're treating African Americans different than other passengers when we pay the same amount for our tickets, then we're saying travelers beware. That's important because there are options. And we want African American community to be disciplined consumers, and so their dollars are respected with the same level of integrity as anyone else's dollar, and we can choose how we leverage our resources in a way in which we understand what the risks are. It is a risky business when someone is traveling and being removed from a plane. The emotional response to that could incite law enforcement in the area to arrest someone. And we know overcriminalization is a problem. It is a risky business when individuals pay their money and they're trying to get home in a timely manner, whether it's family travel, leisure travel, or business travel, and they're being treated by an airline that obviously have not learned to train their employees around racial sensitivity. So for that reason, we are issuing a travel advisory on American Airlines.
Tamika, what are your thoughts about the NAACP issuing this travel advisory, and what impact do you think it'll have?
Well, I mean, I think that it's important because one of the things that I have received, and I know, Mark, you also have been a part of sort of fielding through the calls, particularly from Black women,
right.
Emails and calls that we've received from folks who have been removed from the plane. I was not necessarily aware. I knew that there were some issues with American Airlines because I had other incidents where I felt like flight attendants and others were a little aggressive. And then
Right.
Joteka Edie, who actually worked for the NAACP, I met her there. She had been through some experiences and had put them on social media and filed reports, and I heard about that. And then Simone Sanders, who's the former press secretary for the Bernie Sanders campaign and now a CNN TV correspondent,
Uh-huh.
the police were called on her one day. And then I learned of the the chairman emeritus of the NAACP's sister had been removed from a plane. And because the passengers supported her and sort of had an uprising on the flight, she was allowed to come back with her 4-year-old and 3-year-old children.
Mm.
And then the last thing is this young woman from Harvard University who was also thrown off of a plane with her 4-month-old baby just because she asked for her stroller for many delays, several hours of delays. When they were told to get off the plane and walk around the airport until the flight was ready to take off. She asked for her stroller, which is common
Right.
practice, and she was removed from a plane, and her baby ended up spending the night in the airport. So once I began to hear about these other issues, it turned into a situation. We were already talking about the fact that because it happened to me, it could be happening to others, and we needed to get to the bottom of it. But once we heard these other stories, then I knew the right place to go to would be the NAACP to talk about policy and procedural changes, as they have done with many corporations in the past, to have those conversations. That's the work we do as activists. It's not about cutting a personal deal.
Right.
It is, for
Right.
me, important that we sit down and ensure that Black women and people of color are not being unjustly ejected from flights because a pilot or flight attendant has arbitrary decision-making abilities that they could possibly be bringing their own personal biases with them to work, and they're making these decisions on the backs of paying customers who are people of color.
866-99-SERIOUS, 866-997-4748. Tamika Mallory, Women's March co-chair. Derek Johnson, a newly elected president of the NAACP. Derek, I guess a couple of months ago, the NAACP issued a travel advisory for the state of Missouri. So this is, I think, the second time this has happened under your tenure. Did you find that this initiative in Missouri, the travel advisory in Missouri, has itself been effective?
It's been effective. What we want is to develop some dollar discipline in our community.
Right.
We're not telling people to do anything but be warned, be cautious, be aware that where you utilize your resources should come with a level of responsibility and accountability for the community that you come from. And that if an incident can happen to you, it could, in fact, be happening to others.
Right.
And we should be treated with the same human dignity of any other community that utilize their dollars. So dollar discipline is what we're seeking here.
And also, as Tamika mentioned, Derek, the NAACP has been integral in a lot of policy changes with a lot of these businesses and organizations and the government, for that matter. Would the NAACP also be seeking to have a conversation with American Airlines to talk about their patterns and practices?
For us, we have always been open to communicating with our constituents and our community at large to educate them about what's confronting them, how they can align and respond, but also sitting down with individuals to talk about what are recommended solutions. Because once our toe is in the door, we then begin to say, what is your diversity makeup of your C-suite? What is the diversity of your pilots? How are you training your employees around racial sensitivities? These are great opportunities to open the door to make sure that we have good corporate citizens that respect all of our communities and not just individuals that seeing profits off our communities.
Tamika Mallory, Jackie Robinson once told a story about how he was mistreated by a doorman in a building in Midtown Manhattan. And the doorman roughed him up a little bit. He didn't recognize Jackie Robinson. He was older. When the doorman was finally made to know who it was he was disrespecting, Jackie Robinson wrote that, a lot of people go through that every day and their names aren't Jackie Robinson. And sometimes things happen to prominent people for the benefit of all. I think you've shared with me that's kind of your thinking about this situation. This happens so often, but it's happened to you. And so that puts it more in the public spotlight that it's happened to such a broad group of people.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I've heard from a lot of folks, and I think, as Derek has mentioned, this is, obviously focusing particularly on American Airlines, but there's an industry-wide problem because the videos that I have been sent via social media and the emails that I've received from people, and particularly, again, women. There's something about women of color that I've been receiving a lot of emails from them and correspondences telling their stories about things that's happened to them on other airlines. And American just happens to seem to be a concentrated number of events, and particularly the airline that I was on, where I share a story, a very similar story, which is very uncomfortable with, several other women. And I could tell you that this situation creates a level of anxiety that I did not know, Mark, I was going to be dealing with. I knew I was upset the day that it happened to me, but I had no idea that for many days afterwards, I would be unable to get through the full story without crying, and just feeling a sense of depression, waking up really feeling like in a sweat. I mean, it's because you feel almost demoralized. And I know some people say, well, your morals are not out of attack, it's the other person, but you feel like you've been stripped of so much. And we cannot have our people having meltdowns, as I had, on flights after being thrown off based upon someone making a decision based with whatever their biases and their issues may be. And so I am grateful to have the NAACP as sort of an advisor about how we deal with policy and procedure. I keep saying that because I think it's important for people to understand that this is not, us getting up deciding to whine about the airline. This is very serious. It's a very serious and intentional work that we intend to do, because if you can ensure that American Airlines is a leader, we hope that they will come to the table looking to be a leader on how to make sure that they set standards that become industry-wide standards, that become corporate-wide standards across the world, that people will begin to pick up on what they learned from this experience and begin to institute those practices within corporations in general. So that's the work that we're looking at. It's the work we've been doing, and it just so happened, as you said, that this incident happened to me, and it gave voice to a problem that we know exists, that other folks have been going through, but did not necessarily have the relationships with the P. Diddy's of the world and the Roland Martins and the Mark Thompsons and others to be able to get the message amplified.
And how many people has it happened to we haven't heard from? Folks, this video is streaming on Twitter. Our conversation with Derek Johnson and Tamika Mallory, twitter.com/make it plain. Go there and reply on Twitter if you have had similar experiences with American Airlines. And Tamika, I think the hashtag you've been using is
happened. The number 2 me on AA. Happened to me on AA.
Happened to me on AA. Share those stories if you would. Derek, there will be a formal press release from the NAACP later today.
That will be coming out later today. We want to make sure we capture as many people who've had incidents on American Airlines to share their experiences so that we understand the magnitude of what has been taking place. Unfortunately for Tamika and many others, this situation took place. But the difference is they have a platform and a voice and relationships to bring it to the forefront. Think about all of those individuals who may not feel they have the same voice or platform to push this to light. And so we want to make sure we provide that platform to push this to light, to show that this is actual problem or it's not. But based on what we've received so far, it's a problem. It's a pattern that's happened to at least 7 people, 9 people, 12 people, 2 people is a problem if it's racially motivated. But unfortunately, we believe we're going to see many more individuals to step up and say American Airlines is the problem. The final thing on this point, Mark, the rest of the industry are now looking or have already revisited their overbooking policies, except American Airlines. And so that's another issue, because if airlines are overbooked and they're bumping African Americans over others, then that's something we also want to take a look at.
And lastly, Tamika, just to recap, what is next now that after that minimal contact with American Airlines and reaching out? What happens next again?
So we will be scheduling a meeting. They've actually reached out with some dates for a meeting, and we will be scheduling a meeting, and we'll be reporting back. I think transparency is very important to make sure that as soon as we have a meeting, we report back to people who've been invested, whether it be organizations or just individuals. I want to make sure to mention other organizations have said that they are going to join this travel advisory for their particular groups to make sure that people are, again, aware of what is happening with this travel advisory. So we will be back as soon as the meeting is over to report where we are, and we want to make sure that as we go in the meeting, that American Airlines understands that we mean serious business and that they take it seriously, and they send the right executives to actually deal with policies and procedures to sit down with us.
The language, Derek, that was used in the Missouri travel ban was that African Americans and others should pay special attention and exercise extreme caution when traveling. That language, I think we now know, applies to American Airlines, given the series, in the NAACP's words, of questionable race-based incidents that have been occurring. So, folks, listen out later for the formal announcement, but we have it here. It's on the record. Derek Johnson, president of NAACP, the NAACP issuing a travel advisory for American Airlines. Share your stories on Twitter, hashtag happened to me, the number 2 happened to me on AA. Right, Tamika? I got that right?
That's exactly right. AA stands for American Airlines. Happened, the number 2 me on AA.
The Women's March Convention coming up this weekend as well. Looking forward to that, and congratulations. I know that this will come up there. We know this is happening disproportionately to women on American Airlines, so we wish you well at that also. Tamika Mallory, Derek Johnson, my very special guest again. Derek, congratulations on being elected the 19th president of the NAACP.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Tamika.
All right. Take care, you both.
You.
Okay, we'll talk again. Keep us posted. 866-99-SIRIUS. Folks, we'll get ready to get out of here and take a break. This is your wake-up call. Be more purposeful about how you use your money. Build black, buy black, and bank black to build wealth in the black community. Black people spend $1.2 trillion a year, but those dollars don't circulate in the community. There needs to be a sense of urgency to improve the economy. The bank black, buy black, and buy the block movements are so important, including purchasing and holding on to real estate in the community. Pay attention to where and how you spend, and remember to save and invest your money by moving your money to One United Bank, the largest black-owned and first internet bank in America, an FDIC member. You join the bank black movement using your Mona, Amir, or Lady Liberty Visa debit cards with their powerful, proud images celebrating blackness. Shows the world that black money matters. Just go to oneunited.com. That's oneunited.com. Open an account and get your Visa debit card so you can bank black, buy black, and build black today. This is MIP.